Hi, I'm Rosal, and welcome to me screaming into the void, mostly about books. I am doing Criminal's Read What You Own challenge, where I've asked my husband to pick out 100 books, wrapping them all up, and then I'm reading them one at a time. I have just finished Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin, a semi-autobiographical book about a young African-American man who grows up in Harlem in the 1930s and is raised by African-American parents who fled the South due to discrimination, and where the father is a priest. And in addition to this young man also having queer tendencies, that sort of pops up during the story. What I loved about this book was the symbolism of the church and how the church was used by the African Americans in this book. And what I mean about that is that the first thing that sort of hit me, almost physically, but sort of became almost visceral, was the anger that he describes due to discrimination, due to everything happening to African American people in the 1930s. And the anger that he sort of talks about, especially in regarding to his father, becomes something so overwhelming that something interesting ends up happening in the way that it's described in this book. And that is the angers and the people's anger in regard to the church. So the phenomenon that happens is that the church almost becomes like a container for all of their anger. Not in the sense that the church itself or Christianity itself is angry or has any anger, but more the fact that because of discrimination, because of the fear of being attacked, all of the anger is sort of put into the church. The church becomes sort of a vessel where they put all of their anger in, and there is a lot of talk where anger almost becomes a form of sin. So you can see this in scenes where they are talking about you need to repent, go against the sin, and connect that towards the angry emotions. In addition to when they feel a lot of the angry emotions, the church is the thing that they come up. They sort of talk about, you need to repent when they are angry. So when they are angry, the church and Christianity is sort of the thing that they bring up as a way of containing and controlling their anger. This is where the anger needs to go. The anger needs to go somewhere. It goes towards the church so the church can contain it. And of course, when you sort of have so much anger in a community that is sort of contained by this very sort of not explained phenomenon of this is where we are putting all of the anger, the church becomes something almost holy. And I don't mean holy in the sense that God is holy, and sort of everything around that. But the church becomes important and holy because this is this is how we survive all of that anger. And you cannot, therefore, question the church or question the need to repent, not because the church is important, but because asking questions and not repenting, not sort of accepting that we are sinful creatures because we are angry creatures. And we need to contain our sinful nature. In the sense, we need to contain our angry nature. And sort of in the fancy-pantsy world, we would call this a form of sublimation. So the church takes on a role where they are acting out something on behalf of something else. We cannot get angry at the white people who are discriminating against us, so we get angry within the sublimation of the church to keep us sane and keep our society safe, because otherwise we as a society would collapse. And what I sort of read in this book as a consequence of this is, of course, what about all the other sins? What about sex outside of marriage, children outside of marriage, or again, homosexuality? Because sort of sin is anger and anger is sin is such a huge discourse and understanding in this sublimation aspect of it. All of these other sins cannot be questioned. Because questioning, for example, should we be sort of banish women for having children out of wedlock? Or should homosexuality not sort of be judged in the way it is? Isn't then sort of, we condemn sex out of marriage, we condemn homosexuality, not because the church says it, but because if we don't, what then happens with all of the anger? What then happens with this thinly veined connection and container that we as a society has created? And they're also in the sense, because anger is sin and sin is anger, anger then also becomes homosexuality, because homosexuality is sin. So there is sort of an equation where everything here melds together, because the main focus is how do we contain and deal with the anger present. And I absolutely loved how this all was worked out and how this was used in the way in this book. So, have you read it? And did you? Because my husband read this for school, and he wrapped it. This is his copy, and he asked me, "So, what did he think?" And I blabbered on anger and church and all of these amazing things, and he was like, "I didn't get that at all when I read it the first time." But he absolutely agreed with my reading of it. But that was not something he had on the radar at all. So let me know. Have you read it? And what did you think about the book and this way of reading Go Tell It on the Mountain? And now we move on to our next book. I am now just bringing out my little salsa jar and picking out one piece of paper. It's weird to think that maybe one day, if I'm lucky, this will be empty. And I am reading book 27. Give me a moment. 27. Howl and Other Poems by Allen Ginsberg. This is a very famous poem, and all of these are all books, and I did notice that this book vanished from the bookshelf, so I did assume that Howl would at some point appear in my in this project. So I am now going to read Howl. I have actually read On the Road by Jack Kerouac. So Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg wrote within sort of the same themes and the same genres. So I have some idea of what I'm going to meet, but I've wanted to read this for some while now. So if you want to know my thoughts about Howl, subscribe, and thank you for listening to me screaming into the void.